Alright guys, we are going to start welding soon. So first, we know all of our equipment now that we're going to need, but we need to set up our welding station. So we just have a couple pieces of steel here, and this is what we're going to practice welding on. It's perfect for practicing on. You don't even need pieces that are really this big. These are a little larger than we even need. And you don't need pieces that are this thick either. So this is just what we have available. So practice whatever that you would have available to you. So this is a piece that I already started welding on. We're going to practice a couple runs on that. So we have our magnet here, and we can use this to just help hold our weld down. I also have some clamps here. We have a variety of magnets and clamps over here as well that you can use. And just kind of depends on what you're welding. If you need to angle it, if you're welding on a flat surface, if maybe you want to do a joint similar to this, whatever your purposes are, you're going to adjust the clamps to fit your purpose. So some other things we need to make sure that we have before we start welding, and that is our safety glasses. We need to have our gloves on. We need to have some closed-toed shoes. And then we are ready to get started. So first thing that I like to do is check my amperage on my welder. So like I said, we are using the 6013 welding sticks. And since those are a smaller version of a welding stick, these are perfect for any regular welding, especially on agricultural equipment. So we want this amperage to be set at 75 to 125. So we're just going to set it at 120. We can adjust that as needed if we decide we want it to be a little bit different. Now, before I get started, I am going to turn on our vent system. Try to talk loud so you guys can hear me over the vents. So now we are going to turn our welder on. You can hear it starting up. We'll just give it a second to warm up a little bit. While we're doing that, we can go ahead and clamp our ground onto the table. Now you want to clamp this at a place that has very little rust, and it looks like it has a lot of connection with the metal. And that will allow you to get connection to everything else on the table.
I got a question, Missy. What would happen if I had a bad connection, like if my ground wasn't clamped correctly?
If you had a bad connection, then it just would not work. So sometimes a lot of people will forget to connect the ground at all, or they'll have a rusty connection, or it won't get connection fully with the surface, and it just simply will not strike an arc. You won't be able to weld at all. And so then you'll have to adjust your ground and where you put it.
Okay, so it's not going to be a safety hazard, but it's going to be something that I don't, like something's not going to work properly, but it's not of a danger to myself or my classmates around me.
Correct. Yep, not a danger whatsoever, as long as you have your ground connected somewhere to the working area, but it essentially will not work properly. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is my amps are on. They are correct. I double checked. My ground's connected. So now I can go ahead and put my welding helmet down. And I'm going to strike an arc. Now I am going to try to weld over here. Oh, that's stuck a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, striking an arc is simply like striking a match. You are going to swipe the welding stick with the electrode across your work area. You do not want to swipe it, now this is scrap metal, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot, but if we were working on a project, we don't want to scrape and strike our arc onto our project. So usually we just do that on the work surface. Again, if you're just working on something like maybe a piece of agricultural machinery, it could be like a manure spreader you're working on. You know, it's not a huge deal where you strike your arc if it's an old piece of equipment, but you just want to keep that in mind. You don't want to ruin a good project by striking an arc on it, because as you can see, I have arc lines in my work area now. So that is the weld that I just did. Again, that's a pretty rough weld. Just as the first one, just to see how it turned out. So we're going to take our chipping hammer, and we're just chipping away the slag that was left, and that's from this flux material that's on the outside of our electric.